Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of More Than a Statistic podcast. It's our 10th episode. We're finally double digits.
Woohoo!
Yay. My name is Justin Griffin. I'm 11 years recovered addict and just fully redeemed and really been built up, and just want to give thanks to God because I got to quit playing these songs that get me so fired up, man, because it's so hard. How are you going to follow up that? But the whole reason why we're here tonight is because we sought the Lord and He heard and He answered,
Yeah,
and now He's got something for us to do.
yeah, that's true. That's true. We're here for it. Hey, I'm glad to see everybody tonight. I'm Michael, grateful believer and follower of Jesus Christ. 8 years clean. Yeah, 10th episode, man. Big week. It's been a big build up. I've kind of let it stress me out.
Me too.
Kind of let it eat my lunch a little bit, but kind of let God do His thing tonight, and it'll work the course.
I guess so. One thing about not having a lot of people that just constantly that I know, one thing is we shoot this from my home, so finding people that I know and that I'm comfortable with, introducing them into my home is getting harder and harder to do. But we have to keep going. So we're starting to try to build these own little, when we don't have people, what's a little lesson that we know that maybe we can share. And this week it was exceptionally hard because our life has just been plumbing lately. So we kind of saw it fit in that let's talk about what we know, and that would be plumbing. You got anything you want to add to that?
No, I mean, well, I was nervous when we talked about the topic for the week. I was like, how are we going to do this? But the more I sat and thought on it, the pressure aspects of with the plumbing and how we go about whether we're putting tests on something or whatever it may be, the pressures of that with the pressures of life that we deal with in recovery, in daily tasks, it's constant pressure. It's constantly not got to know how to release the valve, got to know how to reach out so you don't explode.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like,
for sure.
So I think it's going to be good.
I think so too. Me and Michael talk a little bit about just how life has weird ways of keeping certain people together throughout life, not necessarily family, but just certain coworkers, or in Michael's instance, he was a brother-in-law, and he just keeps us together. And in our story, we've worked a couple of different jobs together, but now we both work plumbing at the same place. We're both in the local 102. We plumb and pipe fit for Sylvan. We're actually doing the KUB filtration building for the new water down on Riverside right now. And, our work, it's pretty cool. Like, this is some big boy stuff that we're doing now. And just the intricacy and the angles and just the appeal to the eye is pretty cool to me. But as we start to get more and more done, we're moving into this test phase.
Yeah.
And, that's when it starts to get a little bit scary because...
Real scary.
Yeah, the work looks beautiful on the outside, but when we throw that pressure onto it, that's where it's going to kind of show us, where the weakness is.
Right.
A lot of times I've learned that also can relate to our life because just my experience, and I've been plumbing for like 12 years, I believe now, which is pretty crazy. Most of the time when I start testing, before I panic, if it does seem to start dropping, if the system ain't holding the pressure, I would say 95% of the time it's the test equipment leaking first.
Right.
And I thought about that as we're the test equipment. How often is our struggles and these pressures, is it self-induced on us just because of something faulty in us?
Right.
The character defects and just the way that, like you said, everything that we do is kind of just like life. We're timelines, we're put up to schedules that we got to complete this. It's got to be done, and it's got to be right.
It's got to be done right.
Correct.
It's got to be done to a certain manner of perfection.
Sure. And the test phase is scary, at least for me. But in the scare, a lot of times in life, that's when your pride kind of that's for at least for me. That's when my pride showed up, and I could see it physically.
Right. And I think too with the test phase, like I was thinking about it too, it's like, so before you panic, you got to think too, you get to find out where, because when I go into it, I've looked at it. So you're going in and you know everything you've touched and everything that you've had your hands on. So you're feeling pretty confident about
Sure.
everything that I've done. But then how many other people have come onto the job throughout that process and touched this and that, and you don't know who touched that or know where to go to find this, you know? So that's kind of like having your people around you. If you've got lazy or unorthodox people around you, it's going to put bad seed in you. It's going to throw your path off. Kind of with that situation, you know that you're very meticulous. I'm overly anal about things too much sometimes.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like I nitpick it too much.
Too.
Like I can stand there and overlook stuff. So then you've got the people that just go at it, throw it together, halfway do it, don't check
it. My house.
It looks good from my house thing. Yep. So they ain't worried about the test thing.
Sure.
So when
they're going to be long gone.
They're gone, or they ain't worried about that gauge dropping. They're so over not even paying no attention to it. So when you got to go back through and minusculely check every little thing.
Sure.
You know, do you panic or you do slow down and try to find that little bitty? You know what I'm saying? Like,
and it's always a little.
It's that little bitty hiss, man.
But it always shows up. You know, you might have to throw a little soap on it, but it's going to show itself. So let me ask you a question. What's something that you would say, since we have did several jobs, what is a characteristic or a trait that you have learned maybe through a job that you've done that now you kind of find yourself managing other areas of your life the same way?
Slowing down. Slowing down, because I go 1,000 miles an hour, and I'm 100,000 miles an hour always. And I notice if I don't take the time to slow down and think about what I'm doing, just to go with what I'm doing, I'm okay. But when I start overthinking and self-doubting, self-doubt will send me down a hole. Like I'll think that I'll cancel myself out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I think with being in big jobs and big situations has gave me that slow down, take your time. You know what you're doing. Same thing with life. You know what you're doing. Everything's busy right now. Don't panic. If you don't know, reach out and say, hey, I'm stuck right here. Give me a little assistance.
Yep. Show me the blueprint.
Show me the blueprint of this. You know, show me where I'm going right here. Same thing. Man, life's kind of beating me up right now, brother. Like, kind of been holding on to this. What's your 2 cents for this? So I feel like when you slow down, ask for a little bit of assistance, because asking for help,
it's pretty hard.
What do you mean you don't know what you're doing? What do you mean you don't know how to do that? That's what I think is going to be the response or the answer, when 9 times out of 10 it's not that.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I'm glad you asked for help versus
not knowing and messing it up.
Train wrecking.
Sure. I would have to say for me is it would be at the end of my addiction was the first time at my job that I felt like I ever got took serious. And that was when I was at Crystal's, and we were nearing the end of our addiction while I was working there. It was the last final months of it, I would say. But my manager saw something in me at the time. I don't really know what it was because I was consumed in it, you know. I was funny, but I worked hard. I guess that was what it was there, was I worked hard and I showed up, and at a Crystal's, that's probably hard to find people to do. So she took me serious and she took a chance on me, and she put me into a management position, to which I'd never done before, you know. Like, I'd always kind of, in a crowd, like if I seen that it didn't have a leader, I try to lead the crowd, but I'd never, like, as a title said, hey guys, this is what we need to do. So just early into that, learning that trait really stuck with me after recovery. And I'm going to say it's because after recovery, because the emotions come back to where I cared.
Right.
So the Lord just seemed to keep blessing me after that with somehow I accidentally end up important everywhere I go. Just a little bit, not to toot my own horn or nothing like that, but it just seems to happen to where I can't just be the guy, like you said, that looks good from my house guy.
Right.
So it gets me in trouble when your job is to do a good job, you know. But
when you work hard and you've got morals and ethics, you can't fall in the shadows.
yeah, it's hard to, even if you act like I act so dumb, man, and they still love me because they know apparently I'm not dumb. But even into now, like recovery and that job trait has brought me to where I've led all across the board, like you said, every kind of person, the crazy ones, the ones that when you first look at, you're like, ain't no way. Some of them you get really excited. Like the worst thing I remember was when they come in, they say, I plumbed for 25 years. That was when I would get the scaredest because just for some reason that was the look goods from my house type. And in that trait, it's taught me it's given me a care about people. I feel like is you're not just my employee, like you're still a human to me before all this.
Right.
You know, and just carrying that trait, it's kind of cool, but you know how much it's a battle with pride because you don't want to be the guy that ever says that I'm the boss. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So just learning the pressure of doing that. How do you do that? How do you get a bunch of different guys that you don't really even get to choose that are all completely different to look at you with respect in these moments of pressure that we talk about? And then how does that expose your pride? Like when something rubs against that, when you're challenged.
Right. And that shows how you blow up or do you adapt or not, you know, and you got to either had the bosses that bust under the pressure of that situation.
Sure.
And then they don't know how to handle it, so they automatically come back and just blow up on everybody.
Yeah.
Instead of figuring out the plan and being like, okay, here's how we can go about this. So when you do that, you come about situations totally different. So it's easier for people to want to follow your lead because there's nothing that you don't already leading the way at. You know, like you'll give out an order of stuff to do, but then you take the lead and go do it.
Yeah, I tell you to do it, and then I get in your way.
You know, so I mean, it's different. It's different qualities of being a leader. And I think that's when and we learn those qualities too through the life that you've went through, the life that we've went through, the struggles that you've overcome. So you've learned how to balance and learn the pressures of life, and so you've learned how to deal with that internally. So instead of lashing out towards people, you come with a more calmer of an understanding, so it's easier to follow your lead.
True, it's not always.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, especially when there's injustices or if I felt like there's been a wrong. You know, that's what I'm really working on. That's my pressure right now. Is that area of my life is like letting others dictate my emotions when I feel like there has been, instead of allowing God to take care of it. You know, I feel like I got to say something about it first. Struggle. How would you say that plumbing has taught you patience?
I still struggle with that daily. But man, I mean, just dealing with small things, the minuscule things, like
the most frustrating things.
I mean, and I remember the first time ever trying to track a leak and can't find it for nothing and freaking out, you know, and running around and your mind going 1,000 miles an hour, you know, and you're panicking because you're thinking, oh God, you're about to flood somebody's house, you're about to flood whatever it is. And I used to panic. And when I first started getting around people that were teachers and like a calmer person, and when I was getting taught how to actually go about the process of tracking things and being slow and just work through the process. Like I remember I found a big leak that nobody could find like hours at Canes. Like we could not, and it was down in the bottom of like in the ground, and like I just felt like I heard this small hiss. And I mean, I took the time, like I tracked that thing forever, and I've learned that patience. Like even like if I'm up on the ladder and I drop that nut 42 times, like the old me would flip out, get down, kick the ladder, and be like, I'm done. I'm going home. Like I give up. Now it's just like,
yeah, you just have to sit there and listen to me and Ed just drill you.
Can you hand me that nut? You know,
for the 90th time.
I mean, so plumbing takes a lot of patience. It takes a lot of time to just to be able to sit and take in what's going on. And if you don't have the patience for that, like your work's not going to turn out as good as you would like it to. You're going to have more errors and more flaws along the way, I feel like, when you're rushed and just going 1,000 miles an hour. The way that I see how you run your crew, how this job is going, that's what's producing great plumbing.
Yeah.
I mean, standing back and looking what we're doing right now, it's like,
it's very
my hands are in that,
sure.
you know? Like
that's my favorite part is when you get to stand back.
Right. So hopefully when we stand back and see this beautiful picture and we put this test on it.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll still be smiling.
Still be smiling.
Not scrambling with all them thoughts. I'd have to say the same thing as dealing with people. Like I'm such an introvert until I'm comfortable with people. Like at first I'm so quiet and like people
nobody believes that.
They never believe that until like it takes me a while to warm up. And just having to deal with all different kinds of people every single day. Like you said, the hotheads and the know-it-alls and the ones that you're sitting there and no matter the words that you're trying to explain what you need, they don't understand. So like it does. Me back in the day would have grabbed a tool and just chucked it, or a fitting and just chucked it. And I had the urge on that backflow. That's the closest I've been to chucking a tool, but I'm glad I didn't. You know what I mean? The old me wouldn't even thought about it.
I seen it, and you recovered so well.
I could feel it in my eyes, but and you know, let's lead into that. Let's talk about a time that you felt like life's pressurized, and what we did to deal with that.
Oh man, so many. I mean, really, golly. I mean, the first biggest pressurized of life for me was when I knew that I was going to become a father.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and becoming a husband and then becoming a father, two of the things that I said I would never do, you know, and that was a big, and like I feel like the valve has here in the past couple of years has finally started to release, and I know that I've broke all them chains.
Mm-hmm.
I've broke the cycles of what I was so afraid of, because the pressure of becoming what I was brought up in was my biggest fear ever. And, you know, I beat that. And, you know, the pressures, golly, you know, I carried the pressures a lot of being successful, sober person. Like I always felt that I would never be successful in recovery. Like I was always just destined for that lifestyle, you know, just hopeless, just whatever. And man, I feel like we carry so many pressures that you can look at every day. You can't just, it's hard to pick out one when you look at that. It's like, how are we weighing those out though?
Yeah. It's a pretty good question. I don't know if I can even answer
I mean,
that.
you know, it's like, it's like, because I know that I get caught up when I don't continually give it to God, like when I let everything start piling up, you know, those pressures, we're constantly under pressure, and we've got to learn how to start releasing that valve, man.
Yeah.
Like that's the big, like, I didn't know what we were going to talk about with pressure on that, and that valve keeps coming back. Like, I don't know, as soon as we started, the valve just
pop off,
dude. Like,
Thank God for that pop
I'm
off.
telling you.
I would say the same as you, as having Braylon when I was 25 then. Never had a dad, had a stepdad one time for like maybe 2 years. But besides that, it was my sister's dad and another guy, and they just kind of cycled. So like having zero examples of what a dad looked like going into all this stuff I said my whole life that I was, because I never said I was going to be a dad, but I wasn't going to be like my dad, I said. And I made all these things. I was the world's worst about it. My kid ain't going to act like that to my sister's kids. Every we talk about it, she'd be like, yeah, you'll see when you get your own, you'll get, and so that it's just the pressures of that. And then fumbling the bag and getting, that's when my addiction started, was when my son started.
Right.
So we were carrying both of those, and thank God for that intervention, that pop off that led us to stopping that way of life before he had any memories to remember. Like,
Right.
he don't remember
won't
us
know
dope
nothing
stick
about
laying
that.
in the bed. He don't remember me with my face sunk in and my eye sockets, like looking like I'm dead because I was skinny, healthy, on dope.
Right.
Everybody, like, I heard it all the time, like, oh, you're so skinny, you're so skinny. And another one would have had to have been going through the cancer. Like,
Yeah.
even though you don't know, it's the unknown of it. But I chose to do that. Was the one time that I chose to do it differently, and I stood on. That was the first time I think I fully stood on God publicly, like publicly announced, "Watch this."
Right.
And then he just boom. 2 weeks later, you ain't even got cancer. You don't have to have radiation. You're not gonna have a son. You can't have kids anymore.
Right. You can't do
And then here comes Tyndall. And
God said, "Watch
there's
this."
another pressure. Becca's pregnant. I can't have no kids because the doctor said that, but then she had him, and I was like, oh, never mind. So, thank God for that, for the pressures, because that's where I think that we change at our root. That those kinds of pressures affect us to the instinctual parts of our brains, and somehow it does rewire us, and it takes time. The pressure of time. That's my biggest pressure right now, I feel like, is balancing time between what needs done at work while we're at work, what needs done at home as soon as I get home. And,
Right.
how do we constantly balance this with the energy level of I'm almost 40, you are a little bit past it, with those energy levels, so that's another pressure that I seem, but thank God that it's such a goofy pressure.
Right.
That it's not a, where am I going to get this dope from? Where am I going to get this money from? Where am I going to sleep tonight? Like,
It's just more, it's just the pressures of living up to trying to give our families the best that they can have. You know what I mean? Like, because that's it. Like, I was scrolling last night as I was thinking about tonight, and I was sitting there scrolling on my memories, and me speaking at rehab popped up.
You made me cry this morning. Thanks.
And I forgot all about sharing that, and sitting back watching that fresh. I was 14 months clean, and I remembered the pressures of that bus ride going to Michigan. So dope sick, just thinking I was going to die and I was never going to make it. And I remember surrendering and giving it all up right there. And to look 14 months later, I drove back up there to speak at that willingly went into a rehab and let my son play, and I have a video of that.
That's amazing.
So that pressures of not going to be a successful parent and a successful husband and going to leave my son, and I'm not going to be successful in recovery to turn around sharing my story, and doing this today, it should have been further, but along the way, I let those pressures interfere, and discourage me. Like, we're not worthy of this. We're not supposed to be speaking and telling our stories to everybody, And so I busted a pipe and I sprung a leak, you know what I'm saying? And so you got to repair it accordingly. and know how to come back to just give it to God. We got to give it to Him, because that's where the pop off comes in.
Yeah. And in those moments, like you're saying, when there is that leak, we're so in the moment that it's, oh my gosh. But then once we get it fixed and we're in the truck riding back to the shop, we're cracking jokes and we're laughing about that thing. So, the pressures, why do we let them affect us the way that we do?
Like, why is
when
it so
15 minutes
consuming?
later, we can completely flip that and we can laugh about it, So
That's saying, God, okay, here we go. I'm coming into this right now. So be with me and guide me as I go through this situation, so I don't fleshly react to this.
Yeah, and that kind of ties into where I was going to go into next, and that was, I think we've already answered it, but in the pressures, what shows the leak first, do you think, in you, your faith or your focus? And you kind of already said it. I would agree that in the heat of the moment, my focus is completely gone.
Yeah.
In the first couple of seconds, in the first couple of seconds, I'm just like,
Right.
And then, so I'd say mine would be, my focus leaks. But like I said, where I've plumbed for 12 years now, and I've done these tests and I've seen these leaks, and I know these systems and what the material's made out of and what the fittings are, I've built off of these pressures that I did used to have,
Right.
that no longer, after that 15-second freak out of where I'm like, oh no, I start falling back on that. And that's kind of where the faith is. You know what I mean? Like I try to lean more on my faith in the future and in God, because I'm trying to trust in Him regardless of what life's going to throw. And that's easy to say now because everything's okay, and we'll see if I'm still feeling that way when the battles come.
Yeah.
But I feel foolish even saying it, but that is just kind of how I feel at the moment.
Yeah, and I agree. And I like, my focus goes at first, but I feel like then with me, I can be very focus driven and focus oriented. Like, I can be overly zoned in on the task.
Sure.
With a leaking faith, and which will lead to me doubting what I'm doing, whether it be putting them pipes together or leading my son in the right direction, daily task, and I feel like that's where sometimes my faith will leak out, and I'll start doubting, and then I have that, and it'll be like, God will show it there. I'm like, okay, I've got to start being more consistent in the relying on Him, because I still have the troubles of taking control of my ship.
Sure.
Like when the pressures start coming on, when life gets heavy, I'll just try to carry it for a little bit before I release it out.
What can I do with it first?
Right. What can I do?
Me too. Same
I try to see what I can do with it first.
Let me see what I can do with it first. And that'll probably lead in, that leads into the next thing, is that pressures ain't creating the leaks. It was already weak. The pressure's just showing us where it was at. And like I said, most of the time it's in the test equipment. But with a little time and you staying conscious in your field, whatever you're working on, like I said, mine is the outburst of my mouth that I don't need to defend or justify or take up for. Like, I don't have to do that. God's going to do that, but it's still hard.
Yeah.
And that would be one of my character defects, is still the thing about me now is, like, I used to lie to you, but now I'm overly honest, where I would rather make you mad with my honesty and my humility. Like, what can you do to me if I do it to me in front of you? How are you going to handle me then?
Right, yeah.
So, that's a character defect in me too, is like, let's see what these guys think. Like, even me, I'm crazy. I act silly. I act goofy. Like, some people, I'm sure I'm a lot to take, but like, after you give me a little time, even, you'll start laughing with me and you'll start partaking and enjoying, So it's just the thing I'm gonna keep saying is the time, my pressure. Once again, it's time.
Yeah.
Given at the time, like I'm bad about
Don't.
not slowing down.
Yeah. And, it's slowing down or not getting so discouraged in what you're striving to do that you quit before, don't stop before the miracle happens.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because that's when the breakthrough's about to come. When the pressure's a lot of times when you're on the track of doing what God's calling you to do, whether it be the podcast or your next role in your job, when you're starting to do all those things and everything's lining up, everything all of a sudden gets hard. Your truck breaks down,
Yeah.
something else happens right behind that, and then something else, and you're like, and all those discouragements, the enemy's coming in, and that's when the leaks start happening. And it's either, are you going to slow down, track the leak, ignore the leak, and think, okay, well, it's not that big of a deal. It's not, so I can leave it for now.
Yeah, you can wait till next week.
Or are you going to tend to it the right way? I mean, those are big deals, and those are hard for me. The reaching out. I'm a somebody that when troubles get hard, sometimes I'll swallow them all up and I'll just kind of recluse in and take it. If I ever start saying I'm fine, everything's fine, it ain't fine. It's like, you're ducking, you're dodging.
Yeah, you're dodging.
So that's a defect for me. I'm not like that as bad anymore, but I still have those times because I still like to try to carry everything myself.
Me too. I'm still guilty of that. Let's say, what leak in your addiction do you think surprised you the most? And if so, like, what do you think's a way that God's using the leak that you fixed now?
I think, honestly, with the leaks of my addiction, that I feel like it's going to end up coming back full circle is my using that, which led to my incarceration. And I feel like all the years that I wasted in my incarceration, through those years, I still had God, and I still had moments of that. And I feel like there's going to be a full circle back to where I'm going to end up back in a prison or a jail one day from the other side, speaking, sharing, helping. Like, I feel like my years of using and the years of me running the streets and being a part of the things I was a part of, but still in touch with somewhat of family and somewhat of God, that He's patched that, and it's going to turn back around for me to help that next person that was that's incarcerated, that nobody didn't reach out to, like myself.
I think that for me, it would be the same kind of control thing, same topics. It's hard to talk when me and him's just alike. But, it's the same thing as while I was on it, I thought I was so slick and that people didn't know, and that, nobody knows. And then people knew. And once that leak was there, that you had to fix it. But one thing I am proud of me is that when somebody called us out, that I said, yeah, I'll do it, whatever it takes. Yes. Like, I didn't resist, and that had to have been a God thing.
See, that's what I love about you and your story, because like you were so willing and just accepting.
I was just so sick, and I knew that was my last chance, or I was going back to, like I said, I was going to be the exact opposite of everything I said I was going to be. So that I was a controller, man. Not so much with Becca. Like, I was never mean with Becca. We fought. Right. Especially, like, we've been married 14 years. We fought.
Well, of course.
But it never got to throwing hands or anything like that. but just being so young and having the kid and being on drugs, and then me lying it. And then when I was caught for a second, there was a second where I was like, but look, we ain't as bad as these. We ain't
Right.
as bad as these. But I knew that that was our last chance. I'm glad that God showed me you're going to be paying child support on a son that you're going to end up messing your life off, or probably dying realistically if you don't take this.
Right.
And so I was eager to go because I was tired. I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. And somebody finally gave me the chance. Instead of hating us, they loved us, and they got us the help. So, but that same control now is, I don't have to have it as much as I used to. Like, I'm so much better about letting things be.
It's hard. I mean, because that was my hardest thing, is control, or just being outright stubborn and hard-headed. Like, those were my biggest things, because all the years when I was younger that people tried to help me and tried to be like, hey, you're going through this. I'm like, I'm good. You don't know me. You don't, but and I fought and just felt like I was okay for so long, and I guess, I mean, you had Braylon, and I guess that was Jax for me. I mean, because it just took so long for that to happen. I mean, because before Jax and Julie come along, like, I didn't have much to shoot for. You know what I'm saying? Like, I had relationships, but I never cared about anybody else, because at that time I was so selfish and self-centered in my ways that I was just still an accident waiting to happen.
Yeah, and the same with me was, I don't know why she gave me a second chance, because I didn't deserve it. But previous to that, like, I was trash.
Yeah.
I didn't care about feelings. Like, I didn't think about what I was doing to these people's minds.
Because you had so many leaks in all your pipes everywhere.
I was destroyed.
I mean, pictures blown out everywhere. So it's like,
I don't even know if I had plumbing back. You know what I mean? Like, we were so we didn't even have plumbing. My grandma really did have an outhouse. So, but just let's move on to that. Let's say now we've addressed the leaks and we found them and we're fixing them, and it's time for a retest in that. And in the retest, in our lives, let's talk about, this is going to be the part of where we had to rebuild our trust and our boundaries and our responsibilities. And for me, that was when I first really started. I got saved, like, I got saved and went to rehab. I gave it to him. And I stayed in my infancy stages forever, and it feels like this year I'm finally starting to take some steps, like unassisted steps. Nobody's holding my hand except I can say God's holding my hand. But the early in, that was the hardest part for me too, was that knowing, because it was very well coached in there, that your words don't mean anything to these people when you get out.
Right.
So I come out understanding that I'm going to have to serve these people, and I'm going to have to show these people. So that's two things that I'd already had the traits for. I've always carried those traits. So a lot of this recovery stuff, it did come naturally once I got the chemicals out of my body, and that I got the emotions back. I learned empathy there, and it's led into this life of being able to manage people, because I couldn't imagine being the manager that lacks the empathy to understand, like, you're my employee, but you're probably going through something outside of this, and being conscious of that when I conversate with you.
And that's part of being in recovery. That's part of really being aligned with God, and God having a purpose for your life, because I feel like those are things that we have. Because if you look back, I'm sitting here thinking about this as you're talking, and I think of stories you've told me through time, like, younger, using, whatever, we've always excelled at the highest part of wherever we were at doing
wherever
something.
It was at. We were the best at it.
Like,
except golf.
And so it was like, and that was without really trying, but trying, you always had a hard work ethic. Like, that was one of my things. I saved me because I worked hard. I'd show up. I might not be in the best condition sometimes, but I was hard at it. You know what I'm saying? And still somehow made a staple and a point in lives of people throughout those journeys, and you never understood it. But as we got clean and we see, well, God's always had us to be in the light of some type of
something.
something to help, serve, teach, lead in some manner. We've ducked it, we've dodged it, but we always keep coming back to it,
Here we are trying. I ain't gonna necessarily ask for an example, but do you feel like God ever has retested you on something that previously did leak in your life?
I struggle. Yes. I don't really know how much I want to.
Yeah, you ain't got to.
But,
like I said, we ain't got going to.
Yeah, I mean, kind of family thing now, just like it resurfaced itself. And I thought about that today, and I was like, I really don't have anything that, nothing has been major till this, and it's kind of been, I don't know how I'm going to react to it yet.
Yeah.
The leak's there, and I know it needs to be addressed.
But you've addressed it. That's the good news.
So,
you're not running from the leak.
Right. So we'll see. But yeah, and I think to answer that question, though, it's being aware and conscious of what's going on and not letting anything consume me. Because before, if a second time attempt of a pressure comes, I probably explode. I'm good for a blow up. I was always good for a good blow up, and that was my defense mechanism. Blow up, cause a scene, and then that way I be out of the situation. Now it's like I'm okay. You know what I'm saying? And when that day does present itself, it's going to be okay. So by the grace of God, not letting moments consume you, letting the pop off do its job, because it can't be consumed.
Sure. It's worrying's not going to do anything. I would also say that one would be Becca. The first time I did her terrible, had no reason to, but for some reason God brought her back to me. And, even though we did, that's where our drug habit developed, was once we got the second time, he brought us out of that. And now here we are 14 years later, and I couldn't imagine my life without that, and that's kind of going to lead into what I was going to talk about next, is how you felt like from that first test that maybe failed because of the leaks versus the second test. What changed, do you think?
Communication, honesty about whatever's going on in the situations. And that goes with, that goes with anything that you're going through. Because with the situations me and Julie's went through in the past, where I've done horrible, foul things, don't deserve to have a wife. And for whatever reason, she saw something greater in me,
Same.
It all goes back to communication, willing to talk about tough things, uncomfortable things. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you don't have the communication and the understanding, and sometimes you don't even have to fully understand, because it was hard for Julie to understand a drug addict, because she was never a drug addict. She never struggled with anything. She never had any problems with that. So it was hard for her to relate. And then once we understood, and when I'd done the bad things I'd done, we both understood that sometimes we have to go in those situations with each other, even though we don't know how to feel for it. You have to go in that place for a moment to be able to feel what your partner's going through. Then that's how the healing comes out of that. Communication and understanding. If you don't have those, if you shut down, because I used to shut down, I used to recluse, I would draw in. Like, I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah. See,
I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to. I just ignore it and hope that it goes away. And now it's like, let's talk about the uncomfortable. And I always had those family members that would do that, though. You know what I'm saying? my Aunt Teresa, she'd make you talk about them uncomfortable situations when I was a child, and as life went on, she'd always, like, when it was bad, Michael, you're going to sit and talk about it. I won't talk about it till I talked about it, but then I'd feel so much better after I talked about it.
Yeah, it's funny how that works.
So that's where I'm at today. And that's what I try to instill with my kid today. He's 9, but I talk about it. I know it's uncomfortable. I know it's embarrassing, but it feels better when you get it out and you know that you have a safe place, a safe haven
to get it out.
till you can get it out. That's how we continue to move on. That's where the pop off keeps coming in, man.
Sure. And since you covered the communication, because I agree on that part, I'm going to say is confidence going into it.
Yeah.
Because, we found it, we've addressed it, we know what it's made of, and now we, with our hands, have been put on it, so we're confident in that. So that mine would have to be confidence, I would say. I don't really know what else to add to that, but besides the communications part is that I'm not the best at that. I still do shut down on her, unfortunately.
Oh yeah, I mean,
I'm working on stuff, just thank God for grace. And thank God, not just from God, but from our spouses, for seeing something in us, because that's what it had to be with her too, because I don't know what it was.
No,
I mean, I
because you think about it, I mean, I thought, would I be willing to put up with, go through, and come out on the other side with her if the roles were reversed? If she was to do the same things that I've done. And I don't know. Some days I don't know. And I've told her that, I commend her and praise her, because to love me and understand me is a lot. And it takes a special person, but that's God. God anointed that woman to be in my life. That was my saving grace. So, that makes you be more aware daily, because I fall daily, I mean, the pressures of when nobody's watching, nobody's around, are you still standing up? You still standing firm? I mean, do we waver? So, I mean, it's the constant eye, we've got to constantly be aware of our work, constantly be aware of knowing that it's got to be done correctly daily, even when you're unsupervised.
Sure. And that's a pretty good point on it. Touch on that. Why you said it is, what do you think is the difference like now? How do you handle your pressure when nobody's looking? How would you say that?
Well, I'm constantly talking to God. So I went through a bad season of, not praying and not in my word at all. And, she prays every night. She'd be like, pray tonight? No. You pray today? And she'd be on me. And so I was going through that rough season. But before that, it was always like I was constantly talking to God, constantly in prayer. That's where I'm at today. It's like I get overwhelmed, and if Jax does something or something gets stressful, and if I do have a moment, or if I'm starting to, I'm just like, it's constant, like, God, what do I need to do right here? God, calm me down, because I do have moments, I mean, we're natural, we're flesh. And when I have moments and I lash out, how I react to those now, it's like just to sit in it, understand it, pray on it, and then I go back and address the situation. And we explain why these things happened. We break it down, because I feel like, and that's your pop off, because when you come back with an explanation and you come back with the breakdown of what these situations caused this to happen, it's a learning moment. You screw up something at work, you mess something up, you get in trouble for it. But then when you come back and you get the understanding of why you shouldn't have done this, what you should have done, and how you could have went about it to prevent it, it's like, oh, okay, makes sense.
Yeah. I'd say mine would be praying too. Is like this year, I can't explain this year. Just you called it first before anybody really noticed, and of God pulling at me. And I've done a lot better this year about talking to him and about, taking time with him. And I'd say a lot of the when nobody's looking is, I'd have to say, listening to that music wide open in my truck back and forth on the way to work. And, leaving it into that, listening to that. And there's been so many mornings I just cry, like the Holy Spirit just completely take me, and here I am doing this before I have to get out of the truck and talk, just because, music's always been my go-to. So many sermons have come to me from music.
Right.
And, the word I needed when I needed it, the right kind of song that I could have wrote, it seemed like, So I'd have to say mine would be music the most, besides the talking. Like that. I'm the same as you. Sometimes I have to just walk away, internalize, and pray.
Yeah.
And it does. It's made a huge difference versus just how am I going to react in the flesh first? Because it's never the same.
No.
It's never the same.
I mean, but this is a work in progress. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like, because you look at it today and how you act and react to situations versus how you acted and reacted to situations 10 years ago, 15 years ago. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a good feeling to know where you're at today.
Sure.
It's a good feeling to know where I'm at today, that I can handle a stressful situation and take it gracefully on the chin and walk away and make a joke. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Versus like, I'm gonna lose my job today.
Yeah.
Or
uh-oh. And let's talk about, me as a foreman. I could not be successful without the people that work with me and for me. So let's talk about brotherhood, and let's take that into life. Do you think brotherhood is highly important in the communication of, hey, I'm going through this pressure, whatever it may be, or even if you see them messing up, if you got a group of guys and you're like, I think buddy, is doing blah blah blah, do you think that that's important, that accountability in brotherhood in life, regardless of, maybe it ain't their business to call you out, but maybe God told them to tell you.
Without a doubt. Accountability was one of my biggest lacking parts of being successful in recovery, because I didn't want to take accountability for my actions. I didn't want to take accountability for what I was doing, because when you take accountability, you got to be responsible, and you have to be attentive to what you're doing. And I'm grateful for the accountability in the beginning of my recovery, because that kept me focused and kept me on track. And the same with a great crew. We've worked with all types of people, all types of bosses, big companies, little companies, and it all comes back to what's successful in those is a great crew. You can be put on the hardest, most daunting task, but if you got a great crew, without even being that smart, if you got a great crew,
you ain't got to be the smartest guy.
That's amazing what you can get done when you've got a group of guys that all want to work together and like actually be accomplishing something.
Yeah.
Turns out. But then when you've got the few that are just halfway there, half this and that, it makes for a harder job, makes the job longer, draws it out, probably going to be messed up in the end.
And nonetheless, even at the leadership level, they could steer you wrong.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, that's big. So I feel like those are accountability with a great crew is most important always, in recovery and in work.
Okay. Did you so happen to any pressure this week alone that you seen, that you seen a little God moment, in it? Was there a little lesson? Maybe it was a pressure. Because I got one. So if you want me to tell
go ahead.
mine,
Yeah,
and
go
that'll
ahead.
give you time to think. Michael works with me, and we had this every morning. We get together and we have to share what we're doing, and we have to stretch. And unfortunately, one of the guys was just standing there, and one of the leaders just kind of lit into him with a profanity laced. I mean, I don't even want to say it because it was just, I was so shocked that it out of nowhere, this from 0 to 60, this guy just getting reamed. And the first thing I thought about was, what would I be thinking if he was doing it to me? Because I like to talk back.
Right.
You know this about me. But I seen God in that man's face, because the first thing, while he's just getting reamed for something that wasn't, it was a person on his crew did.
Yeah,
like
not even
he didn't
him.
even, he wasn't even there when it was done. So just getting chewed, boom, boom, life just getting him. And him saying, I feel like this is a private conversation we need to have, and just allowed the grace of for him to just get out. Apparently he just had the urge that he needed to get that out for the day. And I seen God in that man's face of being able to sit there and take it to a point of, I found him later in the day and I walked up and I told him, I seen God in you today, brother, and I want to explain that so it doesn't sound weird. And I told him, like, I struggle so much with what I witnessed you stand there and just with absolute grace take. And I said, and I want you to know that that's admirable to me. I said, and I thank God for sending me that lesson this week. So that's the one thing I got to see. And you also, I don't know if it resonated.
No, it did.
It resonated with me really hard.
It triggered me. It triggered me bad because of where I come from. You know, like I went home and told Julie about it, and I was like, you know, from somebody that's been on prison compounds, you know, when I heard that and the way it happened and the tone of it, like I had flashbacks of like, oh, something's about to happen. Like these are, you know, like it made me internally nervous. Like it made me internally shake. Like,
yeah, me too.
I felt that.
I felt the fire in my eyes.
Yeah,
you know,
and you know that was a lot. But you know, I had one. You know, I was sitting thinking I think we were coming over here one day last week. Was at the red light, and you know, I don't really pay attention to a lot of the panhandlers. You know, just different reasons. And we were sitting at the red light, and this lady was standing over to the left of me. I saw her in my peripheral. And I kind of just glanced, and then like God's like, I felt led, like just instantly led. I don't know what it was, and I just lifted the console, and like I just had cash right there. Rolled the window down, and I called her over. She was like 2 lanes over, and I was like, gave her, and she was like, I don't even know what she said, and I just felt very overwhelmed by the Spirit right then.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, that, you know, I was supposed to do that, and I was like, how are we going to be talking about more than a statistic when I'm not helping
it.
You know? And that was my moment, because that's what makes us different than your average, because those are the people that we always are aware of and attentive to when nobody else is.
Yeah. Mm.
That
is,
I mean, because
it seems like people don't seem to see them,
and they always see us.
Yeah, for some reason
they always see us.
Why? You know, I don't understand that. I'm just thankful for the pressures, and like I said, it's, if you tend to just give them a little time, and the big thing is God's will and just trusting in it.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter what we want, you know, and trusting in that and just carrying into that time after time, after a couple of months, after 15 minutes riding in the truck, or 10 years later. And for me, it was after meeting my dad. Like I finally got all the leaks. I found them all, and I handled them all, and they're fixed. So now it's time to turn that system on. You know what I mean? It's time to get paid.
right.
And I'm just excited for just what the future of this has, you know, what the future of our work has, and how far life will take it. And I'm thankful to do this with you every Friday night at 8 o'clock. And I'm going to just end it off with saying, go Vols, beat
Go
Bama.
Vols, beat Bama.
Thank y'all for being here.
See y'all next week.